Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to welcome everybody. I am Stacy Narcata-Welp, and I am the Director of Student Support Services. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and we are one of the co-sponsors of this presentation. We are super excited to have Kalia Vang with us, who is a career advisor who's going to be talking about negotiating salaries and all of the great information that goes with that. And so again, thank you for being here. I'll popcorn it over to Jose if you want to introduce yourself, and we can each introduce ourselves and then get started.
Thank you, Stacy. Good afternoon. My name is Jose Rubio Cepeda, and I serve as the Transfer Retention Specialist in the Office of Multicultural Student Services. I use he, him, his pronouns. Welcome.
Hey, Andrew Roberts, he and they, them pronouns. I work in OMSS. I'll pass it on to Tammy.
I'm Tammy. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm an advisor in student support services.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalia. I use she, her, hers, and I'm a career advisor and academic advisor in the Academic Advising and Career Services. And so should I share screen and just get started? Is that okay? Great. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me as I get that connected. And so for today's presentation about negotiating salary, again, I'm Kalia Vang. And before I get started, I'd like to take some time to recognize that UWL occupies the land of the Ho-Chunk people. And if you're joining us from a different part of Wisconsin or across the country, feel free to use the text number on the bottom of the screen. So 1-855-917-5263. And if you text your zip code or city and state, it'll respond back with information about the native lands in your area. And so I'm actually presenting from Milwaukee, so the land of the Potawatomi, Kickapoo, and Menominee. And so please join me in taking a moment to celebrate and honor the ancestral home of the Ho-Chunk land, as well as the lands of other indigenous peoples across our country. All right, thank you for joining me in that. And so for today, I'm going to share brief information about career services at UWL with the office that I'm in, and then share some negotiation facts, and then information about when to negotiate, and then tips on how to negotiate, with some time for Q&A at the end. And feel free to, since there's a few of us here, that you feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them along the way, so you don't have to wait to the end too. And so as one of the career advisors, I'm one of 5, and we serve students by having 30-minute virtual appointments by phone, email, and video chat. And we cover each of the schools and colleges. And so for me specifically, I work with business students and the School of Ed. So in the chat, if you could, let me know what majors you're studying, and then I'll try to incorporate that into some of the information that I share. And then we also, in our office, we have peer advisors who are available for drop-in questions where you don't need to make an appointment. And I have a link in the PowerPoint, which I'm going to share with the MSS and SSS team for any students who want access to the links. And so we cover topics that are related to career, a wide variety of topics. We talk about resume writing, interviewing, job searching, LinkedIn profile, and also today's topic of salary negotiation. And so negotiation happens in offers and interviewing less commonly than we think. Only 55% of workers will negotiate, and that is even less for women. 45% of women negotiate versus men at 68%. And then managers, there's 70% of them are expecting that the candidates will negotiate. And so they're not expecting that your candidates will accept an offer right away. And so this means there is a lot of opportunity to take some time to negotiate. And then even with the pandemic, that, you know, with the challenging times, that managers are still likely willing to negotiate. And so as early as September of this fall, 36% of managers were more willing to negotiate now than compared to a year ago. And then 50% of them are equally likely. And so there is a good chance of opportunity to negotiate. And so negotiation happens and starts when you get that initial offer. And so avoid talking about salary during the interviewing process. Wait until you get that initial offer, whether it be preferably written, but it could also be verbal. Some companies may start verbally to finalize the terms before they put it in writing, but it could be either or. And then negotiating when you're truly interested in the position. And so you're not wasting your time or the employers. And then, so with the negotiation, once you get the offer, it's okay to ask for time to review it, that they're bringing you a lot of information all at once. And so asking them for some time to review and evaluate is okay. And then if the offer is not your first choice, I'd recommend you to reach out to your preferred employer and ask them about their timeline. And so you can find out, are they looking to extend an offer soon? Are they already decided on someone else? And that could mean that negotiating with the person that offered you the role might be more of an importance or more urgent then. And so using or evaluating multiple employers at once as you're deciding if you want to start the negotiation process. And so with the how to negotiate, there are 4 main steps that you can take to prepare in that. So the first is knowing your value, like what you bring to the table, determining your target salary range, targeting or like what target benefits you'd want as well. And then also determining that walkaway point, like what's your minimum that you would want. And then if the range is below that, would you walk away at that point then? I'm going to focus more on the target range and the walkaway point. I know that it makes sense. I believe it makes sense, did a different workshop talking about benefits. So please refer to that one if you're interested about the different types of benefits that are evaluated in the negotiation process. And then the third step is to prepare some responses. So strategize what you could say to the employer, depending on what they respond back with you. And then the fourth step is to practice. And so I'll talk a little bit more about each one. And so the first one is knowing your value, finding ways to understand and articulate your skills, the leadership roles that you've had in your workplace, in student orgs, in the classroom, and then recognizing the different accomplishments and contributions you've made. And that will help really provide support when you're negotiating. And then you're likely talking about these skills and leadership roles already in your interviewing. And so at the negotiation stage, think back about what haven't you discussed with them yet? What additional information would you want them to consider to provide support and maybe a bump in the salary range? And then also to help you with your knowing your value, take some time to do some more research on the company and the team. And so a little bit more than what you may have done in the interviewing stage. And so at the negotiation stage, think about, again, the company's goals, but what are the gaps on their team where you feel and find ways to articulate that you fit those needs, that your skills will meet those gaps. And that's going to be where you can find your unique value to them. And so with researching companies, looking at their website, maybe looking at news reports about their goals and initiatives, even looking at their social media, what initiatives are they showing there? And then when you're researching the teams, some companies may show their team members on a profile page, or maybe they have information on LinkedIn. Maybe you've already met most of the team during your interviewing. Spend some time looking at their backgrounds and their skills, and then you can see where your skills can complement theirs or fill a gap. And then the second step, determining your target salary range. There's multiple things that impacts the salary. And so with the job title, I'm just going to go back into the chat to see what majors we're seeing. So I'm seeing marketing. And so with job titles and marketing, a marketing specialist versus a marketing coordinator, they sound very similar, but different companies may pay differently for those type of roles. And so kind of knowing your industry and the job titles can be important. And then the career field, business versus teaching, very different pay ranges. And even with teaching, like the range for the settings are different with a private school versus a public school. And so try to learn about the nuances of what impacts the salary. Location is one of them. And so if you're living in La Crosse versus a bigger city, Twin Cities, Milwaukee, those bigger cities will have more like higher rent, higher maybe prices in food, higher gases, and so the cost of living will be higher. I took a look at what would a high school teacher make in La Crosse, and one of the averages I found was 52,000. And so in order to keep that standard of living, if someone moved to Minnesota, they would need at least 63,000 to have the same level of income or standard of living. And so doing some research with that, depending on if you're moving. And then your degree type could impact the salary, the work experience you've had, the internship, is it relevant to the role that you're in? Because if it was relevant, that could help you with the salary range. And then the skills and certifications that you bring as well will impact that salary. Oh, I'm clicking to, no, there it is. And then with the target range, there are several resources that can help you to find what are common salary points. And so Salary.com and PayScale are great because you can put in your job title, the location, and then you can add in different features about yourself, whether it be your education, your skills, maybe your years of experience. And so each one, you can personalize it a little bit more. And then Glassdoor is great because it's reporting on salaries that people who work in those industries are reporting. And so you get actual numbers from the people in those industries. And then the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's a federal organization that's been tracking labor stats for many years. And so they have a lot of history on over 800 occupation. And so that's a great resources. Your local newspaper is a great resource, especially if you're working for the government or a state agency. Those specific salaries are public, and so the newspaper will report on them. And then LinkedIn and Indeed, those are job searching websites, but they also have salary information as well. There's Indeed has a different tab for it. And then LinkedIn, you may need a premium account, but premium is free for the first 30 days that you try it. And so if you're in the thick of job searching, you could try the free premium for 30 days and get access to the salary for the specific job that you're applying to. And then the people who actually work in those industry, try to network and find those who are there. So then you can get their insight on what's common in those roles. And then to figure out your walkaway point, that minimum of what you may want for a salary, or the point where you're like, if I don't meet this, if the employer can't meet this minimum, that I may walk away. To determine that, take some time to outline your expenses, create a budget of the amount you need to pay for your living, your housing, your food, your money that you want to save, your personal expenses, and calculate that up to see what range of income would you need for 1 year to meet your bare necessities. And so that could help determine that walkaway point. I'm just going to check on time. So I think we're still doing okay. So I do have an example from Salary.com. And so with this example, I put in that I'm looking to be a high school teacher in lacrosse. And so this chart, oops, I'm trying to annotate on here so you can see where I'm clicking. This chart has a distribution curve of the common salaries. And so in the middle, you're seeing 56,000 at the earlier end. It's the minimum 34, at the top end 75. And so in that middle part, it's saying about 50% of workers are in that range from the 45 to 66. And then with Salary.com, I'm just going to clear that out. Salary.com, I was able to put in that I graduated with a bachelor's, I have less than 1 year, and I'm reporting to a supervisor versus the CEO. And then I did really well in my student teaching, so my performance was superior. And so that impacted my expected target salary of $52,000 on the bottom. And so while the median is 56, because I put those extra details, it's calculating that 52. And then you could use that 52 as your target. And I would encourage you to aim high. Like this 52 could be your endpoint, your minimum of your range. And then your endpoint could be up to 20% of that range. And so that target medium, that doesn't have to be part of your medium. It could be, use that as your endpoint, your minimum. And then let's say you've calculated your expenses for the year, and I'm thinking that I need at least 48,000. And so that's minimum. Maybe that's my walkaway point, where if it's not there, then I might need to walk away. Or could I be flexible, and even though I need 48, that 45 could be the walkaway point. And so kind of think that through and decide for yourself where those points are. But this is just a quick example of numbers and where you could help develop that range. So I'm just going to clear all this out. Oh, there it is. Okay. This is my first time doing that annotation, so I hope it worked and you can see it. Thanks. Okay, great. And then the next step is to strategize your responses. So thinking about what would the employer say when you go back and show that range and share that with them. And so these are some strategies, and having maybe three or four strategies for each response that you think that the employer might say. With the responses, there's about 2 different types of responses that you could have. The first one is deflecting. And so this is where, again, you're avoiding the salary negotiation until after you get your offer, but also avoid being the first one to share a number. And so typically that first person who shares a number has a disadvantage because you're laying out your cards. And so I've written a response that you could say as an example. And so if the employer is saying, "Hi, Kalia, tell me what your expectations are for the salary," then I could say, I've done some research on salary ranges, but I would like to learn more before I set expectations. And so you're not sharing a number, but you're saying that you want to learn more to make a better decision on what it is. And then if you'd like to be even more bolder, you could ask, what budget does the organization have for this role? And so you're putting it back on the employer to hopefully for them to share a number to you. And then the other type of response could be persuading them. And so as you're having a conversation, take some time to listen and reflect on what they're describing, and then have a response for them that relates to some of the things that they said. And so one example could be, "Thank you for your offer. Based on the comparable roles in the area that I've researched and my experiences in this role," or you could say, "my certifications that I've earned, my leadership skills, I believe that the 52,000 to 55,000 range would be a fair price. Would you agree?" And then having them give them the chance to respond to that. And so, I mean, if you're struggling with responses, feel free to reach out to career advisors. We could always brainstorm with you. We do have some, like a bank of creative responses, and so we can share that with you or brainstorm with you at that time in advising appointments. And feel free to reach out to your advisors in the OMS, SS, OMIS, and SSS too. And then that 4th step is to practice. So role play with friends and family and any advisors, your trusted advisors that you have. This could be where that other person is the employer and you're going in as the real you, kind of very similar to like a mock interview. And then have your friend, your family, your advisor be that employer and have them pick a range that they're thinking about convincing you, but having that employer not reveal it. And so really role playing as if you're going in and you don't know what the employer's intentions are, which kind of mimics what you would have in that negotiation conversation. And then the employer would maybe write down like, what starting and maximum salary would you want to try to convince the role play the candidate with. And then some final tips. I'm just going to check the chat again, see if there was any questions. So it doesn't look like it yet. And then with these final tips, after you verbally get an offer and you're saying that you agree with that offer, you've made the negotiations, make sure to ask for the final details in writing, and then carefully check to make sure that it's written out the way you negotiated in those conversations before you sign. And then after you sign the document, I encourage you to, at that point, stop interviewing for other positions or negotiating. And so when you're signing an offer, stick to your commitment to that you're going to work with that role. And if you're unable to, that does, it could burn a bridge or cause negative influence in the future where you never know where you might meet that employer again or reapply for that position that you recant on. And so if you're signing, be sure that it's a commitment that you're willing to make to pause interviewing for other roles. And if you'd like to learn more, you can schedule an appointment with me or the other advisors, depending on your major. I've listed a phone number, and then you can also use Navigate, which is our scheduling system. And then for more resources, feel free to visit our website. And then also Handshake is a great source for job searching and resources and events too. So I think that's it. Any questions? I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. It looks like there's something in the chat. And then they said, beyond salary, are there other items one can negotiate with the job offer? Yes. Relocation, days off. Definitely. I tried to avoid talking about that because I knew that there was another workshop about it. But yeah, relocation, vacation time, could it be professional development opportunities? And if they are hesitant to negotiate with you, you could always ask them, could it be revisited in 6 months? That could be another strategy too. Trying to think of other benefits. Any other benefits that comes to mind? We can use this as a brainstorming session too.
So I'll throw this out there. I think depending on like the industry or like what promotion and progression, job progression looks like in the company, you know, sometimes there are, you know, after so many years, you have an opportunity to move forward, what have you. And so depending on your skill set, even if they can't offer you a certain salary, you know, where you're at, you know, are they willing to give you credit for service that maybe you have had that gets you closer to, you know, that particular piece? And that may be for somebody who's a little bit further along in their career, but, you know, I've seen people do that like in very creative ways. So it's like you're, you know, even though you may have not gotten the salary you wanted, you're closer to getting, you know, that position and that bump piece. So I throw that one out there because I've seen people do that.
Great, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Are there any other questions?
What about benefits? So, and I don't know if that's going too deep, but what as a maybe an entry level or, you know, first year career professional, what are some things maybe you can share for someone to consider when looking if salary, like kind of like what Stacy was saying, maybe it's credit, years of credit, but this one, life insurance, you know, health insurance, like any suggestions that you would have for someone? What are good questions for them to go prepared to maybe ask? And nothing
Sure.
in detail, but whatever you're willing to share.
Sure, and I'm a visual learner, and so there's a handout that I had that shared that, and I wanted to bring that up. Let's see if I can quickly find it. Let's see. So yeah, benefits, 401ks, retirement plans. And I'm just going back through.
And sorry
Okay.
if I missed that.
Oh,
'cause I was
no.
late.
I knew that there was another presentation about it, so I tried to not put it in, but then and then I thought about putting just a slide in just in case we needed it. And so with benefits, it could be health and dental, vision, the retirement, so that paid time off with vacation, maybe stock options or maternity leave if you knew that you're making some plans. It could even be flex time and maybe even that remote time in the hybrid. So some days working virtually versus being in the office, that could be part of the negotiation. And then if there's those professional development, but maybe you want to go back to school for your master's, could there be some negotiation in that with some tuition reimbursement? And then there's on-site childcare too, depending on if you have children or not. So a wide variety.
Thank you. It was more for the students in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I would throw this out there, and again, Kalia, if you've mentioned this, I apologize if I'm totally repeating, but when you're talking about putting the budget piece, I remember as I was first getting into my first job thinking, all right, great, here's my salary. And so by the time I think food, blah, blah, blah. And the one big piece that I forgot to calculate and understand fully was taxes. And so just as a reminder, and there's a bunch of calculators out there, I know, but just remember that there are going to be things that maybe you're not thinking about coming out of that salary, like what's the tax rate in your area, and again, what's your contribution to if there is a health insurance policy, those types of things. Because I remember thinking, woohoo, I'm going to have all this extra money now, and it was like, oh wait, no, I don't. And is this really going to be enough money to live off of? So I throw that out there because I know that one hit me pretty hard. That was a eye opener.
And that even just that exercise helps you to learn about what minimum will be manageable too. And so sometimes like we go to college and we're thinking, I want to make $100,000, and do I really need the $100,000 too? And so that exercise could help you to see some of like what you can do with what you have, but also what minimum you need to make the bare necessities. And then someone mentioned earlier that some of the students had jobs that were there or offers. Are there any questions about potential questions that you're thinking about as you're evaluating offers?
One thing that I'll throw out there, I know while the students maybe think of a couple of things, is could you share with us maybe what's a reasonable amount of time to be given to make a decision? Because I know myself included, at times there's always that like, oh, I've really wanted this job and yay, I got it. And like this desire to like just want to blurt out, yes, but what's a reasonable amount of time to say, can I have some time to make a decision, especially if oh, I interviewed for these two jobs and I know I'm probably going to get an offer from XYZ, but it's not going to be for another 2 or 3 days. Can you talk a little bit about that process again, if one were juggling between two things? What's reasonable to ask for in terms of deciding? Yeah.
I think it's similar to interviewing, where it's that 1 week, like maybe that's your max, like maybe not ask for more than that, but you could throw the 1 week out there and see what the employer responds back with. So giving yourself that extra time, but knowing that they may say a couple days, or they may, if it's a Thursday, they may want it over the weekend. And so just having that extra cushion. But I'm thinking it's realistically probably 2 to 3 days, but asking for that week just in case that they're flexible, and then letting them know if you're reaching out to others employers that could justify the longer time with the week rather than the 2 to 3 days. Oh, it looks like there's a question in the chat. Say you already had a position with an employer out of school due to an internship. What would the best way to bring up a reevaluation of the salary? And so you have a position, you've accepted it. And I'm wondering also, Are there additional information that you would want to share with them? So then kind of going back to the strategy and responses and coming with some reasons to help you persuade them. So kind of thinking, are there different skills that you've gained since the time that you accepted? So maybe you accepted it early in the school year and now you've gained some more experiences or certificates and knowledge through other experiences that now 6-8 months later that you have more to offer them. I think that would be a way to reevaluate that you have more to offer than you did before. So I'm rereading the question again to make sure that if I missed anything from that. And then is it the same employer?
It would be the same employer. So I had an internship and they gave me a position as like a part-time employee. And I don't think we ever really discussed like the whole, like once your internship is over, like what the salary would be for me. And I just kind of was like wondering what would be the best way to be like, hi, what am I gonna make? The internship is over, you know?
And then are they bringing you on full-time after the internship, after your graduation?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good conversation to, I think anytime would be good because you're essentially going into a new position. The circumstances are going to be different because you're going to be full-time post-graduation. Now you have a degree where in your part-time role you didn't. And so having that degree gives you leverage into negotiating a higher salary. And then the extra hours, the experience, the continued experience that you're staying with them. And so it could be setting up a meeting with your supervisor and having that, asking them or kind of reiterating your interest in the role, what you like about it, and that you would like to explore the next steps of the role after graduation, especially since the semester's ending, your graduation time is approaching. And so it would help you maybe to, you can approach it as like you want to have the conversation so it can help you plan for the future with them.
Thank you.
Any other last questions that we might have, even if you want to type it into the chat? Okay. Well, students, hopefully you got some good information here. Certainly this is something that I would say is it definitely takes practice. And, as you even get further along in your career, you're in even better positions to negotiate. And sometimes coming right out of college, it doesn't feel like you are, but hopefully you've got some great information. Certainly, please reach out to Career Services or our offices, because this is the type of stuff where if you, for instance, wanted to say, Tammy, can you help me practice this? We would be more than happy to sit there and do a mock run through to make you be prepared so you feel comfortable with it. We've recorded this, so we will certainly be sharing this. SSS will share it with OMSS and we'll be posting it so folks can go back to it. And once I get the email from Kalia, I will definitely send out the PowerPoint so everybody has the information from today. And I just want to again thank you, Kalia, for taking your time to share this really valuable information with us and with the students, and knowing that this will be out there again for many more to take a look at. So thank you so much.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Well, we wish everybody a good afternoon and good rest of the week. And stay with it here as we get to the rest of the semester. It's almost done.